She was bound by duty, torn by loss, and promised to another, until one look from a Cheyenne warrior made her question everything she thought she knew about love and loyalty. Thank you so much for watching and for all your comments. Let me know at the end if you liked the story, and where you're watching from and why you're following this. The morning sun cast long shadows across the Dakota Territory, as Mourning Dove kneeled by the stream, her slender fingers dipping into the cool water. At 23 winters, she had already known great joy and devastating sorrow. The Lakota widow's dark eyes reflected both strength and grief as she washed her face, trying to prepare for another day without her husband, Black Wolf, who had fallen during a buffalo hunt the previous autumn. "Mourning Dove," a gentle voice called from behind her. It was her sister, Dancing Rain. "The council meets today," Dancing Rain said softly, helping Mourning Dove to her feet. "Father wishes you to attend." Mourning Dove nodded silently. She knew what the meeting was about. As was custom, widows without children were expected to remarry. After the appropriate mourning period had passed, she would be promised to another. The thought made her heart feel heavy, like a stone in her chest. "I am not ready," Mourning Dove whispered. Dancing Rain squeezed her sister's hand. "I know, but our tribe has suffered many losses. We need strong unions." Mourning Dove gathered her water skin and walked with her sister back toward the circle of teepees that made up their village. The Lakota camp was smaller than it had been in previous years. Disease and conflict had taken their toll. As the daughter of Chief Gray Thunder, Mourning Dove understood her responsibilities to her people. At the center of the village, the men of the council had gathered. Her father, tall and dignified despite his 60 winters, sat in the place of honor. Beside him was Thundercloud, her late husband's brother. At 40 winters, Thundercloud was a respected warrior with 2 wives already. His eyes followed Mourning Dove as she approached and took her place among the women. "My daughter," Chief Gray Thunder began, his voice deep and commanding. "The time of mourning has passed. The spirits have been honored. Now we must look to the future of our people." Mourning Dove lowered her eyes respectfully, but her hands clasped tightly in her lap. "It is decided," her father continued, "that when the next full moon rises, you shall become Thundercloud's 3rd wife. This will honor your late husband's family and strengthen our tribe." Thundercloud nodded solemnly. "I will provide for you as my brother would have wanted." Mourning Dove felt the eyes of the entire village upon her. She inclined her head in acceptance, though her spirit rebelled. She had respected Black Wolf, had grown to care for him deeply during their 3 years together. But Thundercloud was different. Cold, calculating. The thought of becoming his wife made her shudder inwardly. As the council dispersed, Mourning Dove slipped away toward the edge of the camp. She needed to be alone with her thoughts. The rolling plains stretched before her, tall grasses swaying in the summer breeze. In the distance, a group of riders approached. Not Lakota, she realized as they drew closer. Cheyenne. The warriors rode with purpose but displayed no weapons. A peace delegation, then. Relations between the tribes had been strained recently over hunting territories, but both sides recognized the greater threats they faced from the white settlers pushing ever westward. As the Cheyenne riders entered the camp, Mourning Dove watched from a distance. Their leader dismounted with fluid grace. He was younger than the others, perhaps no more than 28 winters, but carried himself with the confidence of a seasoned warrior. His features were striking: high cheekbones, a strong jaw, and eyes that seemed to take in everything at once. "Swift Hawk," her father greeted the young leader. "The Cheyenne are welcome in our camp." The warrior called Swift Hawk clasped forearms with Chief Gray Thunder. "We come with words of alliance, not conflict," he said in the trade language both tribes understood. "The Bluecoats move closer to our hunting grounds each season. We must stand together." As the men talked, Swift Hawk's gaze drifted to where Mourning Dove stood. Their eyes met briefly, and she felt a strange flutter in her chest. Embarrassed, she turned away and hurried back to her teepee. She had no business feeling such things, especially not for a Cheyenne warrior. In less than a moon's time, she would be Thundercloud's wife, bound by duty and tradition. That evening, the Lakota hosted a feast to honor their Cheyenne guests. Mourning Dove helped prepare the food, roasting buffalo meat and serving stew in wooden bowls. As she moved among the guests, she again felt Swift Hawk's eyes following her. Later, as the drums played and stories were shared around the fire, Mourning Dove sat beside her sister, half listening to the tales of great hunts and battles. Her mind wandered until a voice nearby startled her. "The stars are bright tonight," Swifthawk said, settling beside her at a respectful distance. Mourning Dove glanced at him, then back at the fire. "They are always bright over the plains," she replied softly. "Your name, Mourning Dove, it suits you," he said. "Graceful and gentle, yet stronger than most realize." She looked at him in surprise. "You speak our language well." Swifthawk smiled. "My mother was Lakota. She taught me your ways and your words before she passed to the spirit world." "I am sorry for your loss," Mourning Dove said automatically, though she felt a genuine connection in their shared grief. "As I am for yours," he replied. "The women speak of your courage since your husband's passing." Mourning Dove felt heat rise to her cheeks. "They speak too much," she murmured. Swifthawk laughed softly, the sound warming something inside her that had been cold for too long. "Perhaps. But in times like these, courage is something to be admired." They talked as the night deepened, discovering shared memories of places along the river, similar teachings from their childhoods. When Thundercloud approached, his expression dark with disapproval, Mourning Dove realized how inappropriate her behavior must seem. "The hour grows late," Thundercloud said pointedly. "My brother's widow should rest." Swifthawk stood, his face impassive. "Of course. Thank you for your hospitality." As Mourning Dove rose to leave, Swifthawk spoke again, so quietly that only she could hear. "Sometimes the path set before us is not the one we are meant to follow." She hurried away, his words echoing in her mind. That night, sleep eluded her as she stared at the teepee walls, thinking of a future that suddenly seemed more confining than ever. 3 days had passed since the Cheyenne delegation arrived, and the camp hummed with activity as negotiations continued between the tribal leaders. Mourning Dove tried to focus on her daily tasks, grinding corn, tending to the drying meat, mending clothes, but her thoughts kept drifting to Swifthawk. She had managed to avoid being alone with him, yet she could not help noticing how differently he treated the women compared to Thundercloud. Where her future husband barked orders and expected immediate obedience, Swifthawk listened when the Cheyenne women in his delegation spoke. He laughed with the children who followed him around the camp, teaching them small hunting tricks that made them squeal with delight. "You watch him too closely," Dancing Rain whispered as they collected water from the stream. "Thundercloud has noticed. He is not pleased." Mourning Dove dipped her water skin beneath the surface, watching the bubbles rise. "I am not yet his wife." "But you will be when the moon is full," her sister reminded her. "That is only 10 days from now. Do not risk bringing shame upon yourself or father." Mourning Dove sighed. "Do you think our mothers were happy in their arranged marriages?" Dancing Rain considered this. They found contentment in fulfilling their duties. Happiness comes from knowing one's place in the circle of life. "And if the circle feels like a trap?" Mourning Dove murmured. Her sister had no answer for that. Later that afternoon, Chief Gray Thunder called Mourning Dove to his teepee. His expression was grave as she sat before him on a buffalo hide. "Daughter, your behavior concerns me," he said without preamble. "You have been seen speaking with the Cheyenne warrior. This brings questions about your commitment to the arrangement with Thundercloud." Mourning Dove bowed her head. "I have only been hospitable to our guests, Father, as you taught us to be." The chief studied her face. "There is more in your eyes than hospitality. I see it because I knew that same look when your mother walked into my life." His voice softened with the memory. "But our situation is precarious. The alliance with Thundercloud's family gives us strength within the tribe. And if the Cheyenne alliance could offer even greater protection?" Mourning Dove asked carefully. Gray Thunder's eyes narrowed. "Has Swifthawk spoken of such things to you?" "No, Father," she answered truthfully. "We have exchanged few words." The chief nodded slowly. "The council decides your future, not your heart. Remember that, daughter." That evening, Mourning Dove slipped away from the camp, needing solitude to clear her troubled thoughts. She walked to a small rise overlooking the plains, where a lone cottonwood tree offered shade. The setting sun painted the grass in shades of gold and amber. "It is dangerous to wander alone," a voice said behind her. She turned to find Swifthawk standing a respectful distance away. His presence both startled and pleased her. I needed to think, she explained, not meeting his eyes. About your upcoming marriage, he asked directly. Morning Dove looked at him in surprise. You know of this? Swift Hawk nodded. Your people and mine have similar customs. I understand the importance of such arrangements. He paused. Though I wonder if they always serve the best interests of the heart. The heart must follow duty. Morning Dove recited the teaching she had heard since childhood. Must it? Swift Hawk took a step closer. My people believe that the Creator places certain souls in our path for a reason. When two spirits recognize each other, it is a sacred thing. Morning Dove felt her pulse quicken. Such talk is dangerous, she whispered. These are dangerous times, he agreed. Which is why we must seize the moments of truth when they appear before us. He gestured toward the sunset. Like this moment. Beautiful, fleeting, and never to come again in exactly this way. They stood in silence, watching as the sun sank below the horizon, painting the sky in brilliant hues of orange and purple. Tomorrow, Swift Hawk said finally, my people and yours will hunt buffalo together, a sign of our new alliance. You should return to camp, Morning Dove said, though she made no move to leave herself. If we are seen together, I will go, he said. But first, I must speak what is in my heart. Since I first saw you by the stream, something has called to me. A voice inside that says we have met before, perhaps in another life. Morning Dove shook her head, though her heart raced at his words. We cannot. I ask nothing of you, Swift Hawk interrupted gently. Only that you listen to your own spirit. If it speaks as mine does, we will find a way. If not, I will honor your decision and trouble you no more. With that, he turned and walked back toward the camp, leaving Morning Dove with emotions churning like a storm inside her chest. The next morning, the men rode out for the buffalo hunt. Morning Dove watched from the edge of the camp as Swift Hawk rode alongside her father, strong and proud on his painted horse. Thundercloud followed, his expression dark as he glanced back at her. They say the hunt is a good omen, an elderly voice remarked beside her. Morning Dove turned to see C's Far Woman, the tribe's medicine woman and her father's aunt. How so, grandmother? Morning Dove asked respectfully. The old woman's eyes twinkled with ancient wisdom. The buffalo have returned to the southern plains earlier than expected. The spirits favor our new alliance with the Cheyenne. Morning Dove considered this. Do you believe the spirits guide our choices? They offer signs, C's Far Woman replied. But we must have the courage to interpret them correctly. She patted Morning Dove's hand. I have seen how you look at the young Cheyenne leader, and how he looks at you. Morning Dove felt her cheeks flush. My path is already decided, the old woman chuckled. Many paths wind through the prairie grass. The wise traveler watches for the one that leads to water, not the one that leads to thirst. With those cryptic words, she hobbled away, leaving Morning Dove to ponder their meaning. The hunters returned at dusk with 5 buffalo. The camp erupted in celebration. It was the most successful hunt in months. As the men dismounted, Morning Dove saw Swift Hawk approach her father, presenting him with the heart of one of the buffalo, a sign of great respect. During the feast that followed, Thundercloud claimed the place beside Morning Dove, his arm possessively close to hers. Soon you will prepare such meals in my lodge, he said, his breath heavy with the scent of fermented berry drink. As you wish, she replied demurely, though inwardly she recoiled. Across the fire, Swift Hawk sat with the other Cheyenne warriors, occasionally glancing in her direction. When Thundercloud left to get more drink, Swift Hawk approached under the pretext of offering her a choice portion of meat. Tomorrow we depart, he said quietly. Meet me by the cottonwood at first light if your heart speaks as mine does. Before she could respond, he returned to his place, leaving her with a decision that would change the course of her life forever. Sleep evaded Morning Dove as the night stretched endlessly before her. The sounds of the camp gradually quieted, the celebration of the successful hunt giving way to peaceful slumber. But her mind raced with Swift Hawk's words. Meet me by the cottonwood at first light if your heart speaks as mine does. She rolled onto her side, staring at the wall of her teepee. What was she considering? To abandon her tribe, her family, her duty? It was unthinkable. Yet the thought of becoming Thundercloud's third wife, of living under his cold authority for the rest of her days, made her stomach tighten with dread. "What would you do, Mother?" she whispered to the spirits. Her mother had passed to the next world 5 winters ago, but Mourning Dove still sought her wisdom in moments of uncertainty. Outside, an owl called, its haunting voice carrying across the silent camp. An omen, perhaps. Zfar woman had always said that owl medicine brought messages from the spirit world, challenging one to look beyond illusions to the truth beneath. As the first hint of dawn lightened the eastern sky, Mourning Dove rose silently. She dressed quickly, then gathered a small bundle of her most precious possessions. Her mother's bone awl, a beaded pouch, a small knife, and an extra dress. She hesitated, then added the moccasins she had been making for her wedding day, unable to leave behind her finest craftsmanship. She slipped out of her teepee like a shadow, careful not to wake Dancing Rain, who slept nearby. The morning air was cool against her face as she moved through the sleeping camp. At the edge of the village, she paused, looking back at the only home she had ever known. Her father's teepee stood tallest among them, its painted symbols telling the story of his brave deeds. Would he understand, or would her actions bring shame upon him that no amount of explanation could erase? A moment of doubt nearly turned her feet back toward the safety of the familiar. Then she remembered Thundercloud's possessive grasp, the coldness in his eyes when he looked at her, not as a woman, but as a possession to be acquired. She straightened her shoulders and turned toward the cottonwood tree on the distant rise. Swifthawk was waiting, 2 horses beside him. His face remained impassive, but his eyes betrayed his surprise and joy when he saw her approaching. "You came," he said simply. Mourning Dove nodded, her heart too full for words. "Are you certain?" Swifthawk asked, his voice gentle. "Once we leave, the path behind us closes." "I am certain only that I cannot become Thundercloud's wife," she answered honestly. "Beyond that, I walk in faith." Swifthawk nodded, understanding the enormity of her decision. "My band camps 3 days' ride from here, near the mountain waters. We will be welcome there, but the journey will not be easy." "Few worthwhile journeys are," Mourning Dove replied, finding strength in the decision now that it was made. He helped her mount the smaller of the 2 horses, a dun mare with gentle eyes. "She is called Quiet Step," Swifthawk explained. "She will carry you safely." As the sun broke over the horizon, they rode westward, away from the Lakota camp. Mourning Dove did not look back again, focusing instead on the path ahead. They rode hard through the morning, putting as much distance as possible between themselves and any potential pursuit. By midday, they paused in a small grove of trees beside a stream to rest the horses and eat some dried buffalo meat Swifthawk had brought. "Your father will send warriors to find you," he said as they sat in the dappled shade. "Thundercloud will lead them," Mourning Dove agreed. "His pride will allow nothing less." Swifthawk studied her face. "Do you regret coming with me?" She considered the question seriously. "No," she said finally, "but I regret the pain my father will feel." Swifthawk nodded. "Among my people, it is sometimes the custom to offer gifts to the family of a bride, to honor them and ease the transition. Perhaps when we are safely with my band, we can send such a message to your father." "Would your people accept a Lakota woman?" she asked, suddenly uncertain. "My mother was Lakota," he reminded her. "And you are not just any woman. You are Mourning Dove, daughter of Chief Grey Thunder. Your skills and strength will be valued." He paused. "And as for me, I will count each day with you as a blessing from the Creator." His words warmed her, but a shadow of doubt remained. "We barely know each other," she said softly. Swifthawk smiled. "We have our lives to discover each other. But already I see your courage, your thoughtfulness, your gentle strength. These are the foundations upon which lasting bonds are built." They continued their journey through the afternoon, following game trails through rolling hills that gradually rose toward distant mountains. Swifthawk proved to be a patient teacher, showing Mourning Dove how to guide her horse through difficult terrain and pointing out landmarks to orient herself. As dusk approached, they made camp in a protected hollow. Swifthawk built a small, nearly smokeless fire, while Mourning Dove arranged their sleeping furs a respectful distance apart. They ate a simple meal of dried meat and berries, talking quietly of their childhoods and the teachings of their elders. "My grandmother had a saying," Mourning Dove shared. The heart knows the way, even when the eyes cannot see the path. Swifthawk nodded appreciatively. Wise words. My father taught me that a warrior's greatest strength lies not in his arm, but in his spirit's ability to recognize truth. As night deepened around them, Swifthawk took the first watch while Morning Dove tried to sleep. Despite her exhaustion, rest came fitfully. Each sound in the darkness, the call of a coyote, the rustling of leaves, made her wonder if Thundercloud's warriors were closing in. She must have eventually drifted off, for she awoke with a start when Swifthawk gently touched her shoulder. We must move, he whispered urgently. Riders approach from the east. Morning Dove was instantly alert, gathering her few belongings, while Swifthawk extinguished all evidence of their fire. The moon was high, providing just enough light to travel by. They mounted quickly and rode north, away from their planned route. How many? She asked as they urged their horses to a trot. 4 or 5, Swifthawk answered. I caught glimpses of them crossing the ridge we passed yesterday. They follow our trail. Morning Dove's stomach tightened with fear. Thundercloud will not give up easily. Neither will we, Swifthawk assured her. I know these lands well. There are places we can hide that those who do not speak to the spirits of the earth will never find. They rode through the night, following a stream for several miles to hide their tracks before cutting west again through rocky terrain, where hoofprints would be difficult to follow. By dawn, they reached a series of red rock formations rising from the plains like ancient sentinels. We will rest here, Swifthawk decided, guiding them into a narrow canyon where a small spring bubbled from the rock face. The horses need water, and we must regain our strength. They made a cold camp, not risking a fire despite the morning chill. As they shared the last of their provisions, Swifthawk studied the eastern horizon. Do you think we've lost them? Morning Dove asked. He considered his answer carefully. For now, perhaps, but Thundercloud knows these lands too. We must remain vigilant. Morning Dove nodded, then surprised herself by taking Swifthawk's hand. Thank you for risking so much for me. His fingers tightened around hers. The risk would have been in never knowing what might have been between us. As the sun climbed higher, they rested in the shade of the canyon wall. Morning Dove found herself studying Swifthawk's face as he dozed lightly, the strength in his features, the small scar above his left eyebrow, the gentleness around his mouth even in repose. How strange that this man, whom she had known for mere days, now held her future in his hands. Yet something in her spirit recognized him, as if they had indeed known each other in lives before this one. The connection between them felt both new and ancient, frightening and comforting all at once. Later, as they prepared to continue their journey, Swifthawk suddenly tensed. Someone comes, he whispered, reaching for his knife. Morning Dove froze, listening. At first she heard nothing. Then came the soft sound of a single horse picking its way through the rocky entrance to their hiding place. Swifthawk motioned for her to stay back as he moved silently toward the canyon entrance, his body coiled and ready. Morning Dove held her breath, her hand finding her own small knife. She would not be taken without a fight. A figure appeared, silhouetted against the canyon opening. Not the imposing form of Thundercloud, but the slight, bent shape of an elder. As the visitor came closer, Morning Dove gasped in recognition. Grandmother, she called out in disbelief. C's Far Woman dismounted slowly from her aging pony, her wrinkled face breaking into a smile. Did you think I would let my favorite grandniece vanish into the plains without a proper blessing? How did you find us? Morning Dove rushed forward to embrace the old medicine woman, relief and confusion mingling in her voice. C's Far Woman chuckled, patting Morning Dove's cheek affectionately. The spirits guide those who listen, and these old eyes can still read tracks, especially when they lead to where my heart already knew you would be. Swifthawk approached cautiously, his knife now sheathed but his expression wary. Does anyone follow you, Elder? The old woman assessed him with keen eyes before answering. You have chosen well, Morning Dove. He thinks first of your safety. She turned to Swifthawk. No one follows directly. I slipped away during the confusion. Confusion? Morning Dove questioned. Thundercloud roused the village at dawn when he discovered you missing, C's Far Woman explained, lowering herself onto a rock with a soft groan. He demanded warriors to track you down. But your father, She paused, a smile playing at the corners of her mouth. Your father was not as angered as Thundercloud hoped. Morning Dove's heart leapt. What do you mean? The old woman accepted the water skin Swifthawk offered her, drinking deeply before continuing. Gray Thunder has watched Thundercloud's behavior toward his wives. He has seen the bruises on their arms, the fear in their eyes when he raises his voice. A father notices such things, even when he cannot speak of them openly. Hope fluttered in Morning Dove's chest. Then he is not shamed by my leaving. There is some shame, Sea's Far Woman admitted. The breaking of a promise cannot be taken lightly, but there is understanding too, and perhaps some pride that his daughter had the courage to seek her own path. Swifthawk settled beside them. Thundercloud will still pursue us. His pride demands it. Yes, the medicine woman agreed. He rides with 3 warriors. They followed your original trail southeast. I came alone, following what the wind told me. Morning Dove exchanged a glance with Swifthawk. We must continue our journey soon. First I bring gifts, Sea's Far Woman announced, reaching into the pouch at her waist. She withdrew a small bundle wrapped in soft deerskin. From your father. With trembling fingers, Morning Dove unwrapped the package. Inside lay her mother's prized possession, a necklace of blue trading beads and polished elk teeth that had been in her family for 3 generations. Tears welled in her eyes as she recognized the implicit blessing in this gift. He said nothing, Sea's Far Woman explained, but placed this in my hands before I left. He knows an old woman might wander in strange directions sometimes. If she happened to encounter his daughter on her travels, this would ensure she remembered her family with honor. Swifthawk's expression softened as he watched Morning Dove clutch the necklace to her heart. Your father is a wise chief. He also sends this for you, Cheyenne, the old woman added, producing a small medicine bundle. The claw of the bear he killed as a young man, a token between warriors. Swifthawk accepted the gift with proper reverence. I will honor it, and him all my days. Sea's Far Woman nodded approvingly, then grew serious. Now listen carefully. Thundercloud searches the southeastern trails. You must continue northwest through the high passes. The journey will be difficult, but the mountains will hide you from those who wish you harm. She reached for Morning Dove's hands, clasping them tightly in her gnarled fingers. I have had a vision, child. You will build a new life with this man. Your children will know both Lakota and Cheyenne ways. They will be bridge builders in times of great change. Morning Dove felt a shiver pass through her at the prophetic words. Will I ever see my father again? The circle of life turns in unexpected ways, the old woman replied cryptically. What is separated may one day be rejoined. But that is for the future to reveal. Swifthawk rose, scanning the canyon walls. We should move soon. The day grows late. Sea's Far Woman nodded. I will return to our people with news that you travel safely under the Creator's protection. She placed one hand on Morning Dove's head and the other on Swifthawk's. May your union bring strength to both your spirits. Honor each other, learn from each other, and remember that love, like the prairie grass, must bend with the winds of change to remain strong. With Swifthawk's help, the old woman remounted her pony. One last thing, she said, reaching into another pouch. Provisions for your journey, dried buffalo and pemmican. The strength of the buffalo will sustain you. After a final embrace with Morning Dove, Sea's Far Woman turned her pony toward the canyon entrance. Follow the western star, she called over her shoulder. It will guide you home. They watched until the medicine woman disappeared from view, the blessing of her unexpected visit lingering in the air around them. We should honor her advice and move quickly, Swifthawk said finally, helping Morning Dove gather their belongings. As they prepared the horses, Morning Dove fastened her mother's necklace around her throat. The familiar weight of it against her skin brought comfort and renewed determination. My father understands, she marveled softly. Swifthawk adjusted her horse's saddle straps. He loves you enough to let you find your own happiness. That is a rare gift among fathers. They rode out of the canyon as the afternoon sun began its descent toward the western horizon. Swifthawk led them through increasingly rugged terrain, following game trails that wound through stands of pine and aspen. The air grew cooler as they climbed, the scent of sage giving way to the sharp tang of evergreens. My band's summer camp lies beyond those peaks, Swifthawk explained, pointing toward a distant mountain range. 3 more days of travel, if we ride well. Morning Dove studied the landscape, so different from the open plains she had known all her life. It is beautiful here, she observed. The land feels alive in a different way. Swifthawk smiled. My people say the mountains hold ancient wisdom. They have stood watch over the plains since the beginning of time. They have seen the coming and going of many peoples, many conflicts. Do you think our peoples will find lasting peace? She asked. His expression grew thoughtful. I believe that true understanding comes from building bridges between different ways of seeing the world. Perhaps that is why the Creator has drawn us together, not just for our own happiness, but to help create such bridges. As they made camp that night in a protected grove of pines, Morning Dove found herself watching Swifthawk as he expertly built a small fire. His hands moved with practiced precision, his concentration complete. When he looked up and caught her gaze, his smile warmed her more than the flames ever could. They shared the provisions Seasfar Woman had brought, sitting close together as darkness settled around them. The night air carried a chill that prompted Morning Dove to move closer to the fire and to Swifthawk. May I? He asked, gesturing to the space beside her. When she nodded, he settled next to her, his shoulder touching hers lightly. In my village, Morning Dove said softly, couples often sit before the council fire together as a sign of their intention to marry. She felt suddenly shy. We have done everything backwards, haven't we? Running away together before properly declaring our intentions. Swifthawk chuckled. Perhaps, but our hearts recognized each other when our minds might have hesitated. He took her hand gently in his. When we reach my people, we will observe the proper ceremonies. I will present gifts to honor you. We will be joined in the traditional way. And if your people do not accept me, they will, he said with certainty. My grandmother is the elder medicine woman of our band. She has long said that the Cheyenne and Lakota must find ways to strengthen the bonds between us. She will see our union as the fulfillment of her teachings. He paused. Besides, any who come to know you could not help but value your gentle strength. Morning Dove felt her cheeks warm at his praise. You speak with such certainty about one you have known for so short a time. Some things the heart knows instantly, Swifthawk replied. I have always trusted the wisdom of my heart. It has never led me astray in battle or in peace. He touched her cheek lightly. And it has never spoken as clearly as when I first saw you by the stream. The tenderness in his touch made her breath catch. Slowly, giving her time to withdraw if she wished, Swifthawk leaned forward and pressed his lips gently against hers. The kiss was brief, but held the promise of 1,000 more to come. When he pulled away, Morning Dove felt as though something inside her had finally awakened after a long sleep. We should rest, Swifthawk said, his voice slightly rough. Tomorrow's journey will be challenging. They arranged their sleeping furs closer together than they had on previous nights, though still with proper space between them. As Morning Dove drifted toward sleep, she felt a sense of peace despite the uncertainty that still lay ahead. Whatever challenges awaited them, they would face them together. Dawn brought a thin layer of mist hanging in the trees and the distant cry of an eagle. After a quick meal, they continued their journey, climbing steadily higher into the mountains. Swifthawk pointed out landmarks and taught Morning Dove the Cheyenne words for the plants and animals they encountered. By midday, they had reached a high ridge overlooking a vast valley. The view stole Morning Dove's breath. Endless forest stretched below them, cut through by a silver ribbon of river. It's magnificent, she whispered. Swifthawk nodded in agreement. This is the boundary of my people's summer hunting grounds. Once we cross this ridge, we will be within the territory my band protects. As they prepared to descend, a movement in the valley below caught Morning Dove's attention. Look, she said, pointing. Riders. Swifthawk narrowed his eyes, studying the distant figures. A slow smile spread across his face. It is not enemies who approach, but friends. My cousin Running Fox leads a hunting party. They have spotted us. Relief washed over Morning Dove as she watched the riders change direction, moving toward the path that would bring them up the ridge. Will they welcome me? She asked anxiously. They will welcome anyone I claim as my own, Swifthawk assured her. But they will especially welcome the daughter of Chief Gray Thunder, whose wisdom is known even among the Cheyenne. As the riders drew closer, Mourning Dove straightened her shoulders and raised her chin. She was no longer simply a Lakota widow fleeing an unwanted marriage. She was Mourning Dove, who had chosen her own path and found the courage to follow her heart. The first of the Cheyenne warriors crested the ridge, his face breaking into a wide grin at the sight of Swift Hawk. The men exchanged greetings in their language, clasping forearms in the traditional manner of warriors. Then Running Fox's curious gaze fell on Mourning Dove. Swift Hawk shifted to the trade language so she could understand. "Cousin, I present Mourning Dove, daughter of Chief Gray Thunder of the Lakota. She has honored me by choosing to join her path with mine." Running Fox's eyebrows rose in surprise, but he quickly composed his features into a respectful expression. "The daughter of Gray Thunder is welcome among us," he said, inclining his head. "My mother speaks often of the wisdom of the Lakota chief. She will be pleased to welcome his daughter to our fire." One by one, the other warriors greeted Mourning Dove with similar respect. Their genuine warmth eased some of her anxiety about being accepted by Swift Hawk's people. "We make for the summer camp," Running Fox explained. "It is half a day's ride from here. The entire band will be gathered for the Moon of Ripening Berries ceremony. Your arrival will add to the celebration." As they rode together down into the valley, Mourning Dove felt the last of her doubts fall away. The path ahead would not be without challenges. There was still Thundercloud's anger to contend with, and the adjustment to a new tribe's ways would take time. But with Swift Hawk beside her and the blessing of both her father and Sea's Far Woman, she faced the future with confidence. That evening, as they approached the Cheyenne camp nestled in a protected valley beside the river, Mourning Dove saw smoke rising from dozens of teepees. Children played among the lodges, women worked at tanning racks, and elders sat in dignified circles sharing stories. It was different from her home in subtle ways, yet familiar in all the ways that mattered most. Swift Hawk reached across the space between their horses, taking her hand in his. "Welcome home, Mourning Dove," he said softly. She squeezed his hand in return, feeling the rightness of his words in her soul. Sometimes the path set before us is not the one we are meant to follow, but when we have the courage to seek our true way, the spirits guide us to where we belong. As they rode into camp side by side, Mourning Dove knew with absolute certainty that she had found her place, not as a duty-bound widow becoming a third wife, but as a woman who had chosen her own destiny and the man with whom she would build a future of hope, respect, and love.